Hey, Brandon.
Hey, what's up,
Good,
brother?
good, good. Super, super excited to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. So,
Yeah,
guys,
man.
yeah, let me present who's Brandon. Brandon, I met him maybe 2 to 3 years ago. It's been an amazing journey. We met in the fire circles from Rising Man, and I've learned so much from you, specifically your connection to nature and the love that you have for farming and all the holistic coaching. So, um, not to take so much time, I just would like for you to share who you are, what did you do to become who you are right now, and yeah, what are your current dreams for this moment?
Cool. Yeah, man. Well, thanks for inviting me, dude. Be honest, this is my first Instagram live, so this should be interesting for me. And I'm excited, but a little nervous, so that's the fun of it, right? Yeah, I guess I'll start off with who I am. Yeah, I'm Brandon Spires. Um, Currently, in this moment, I am a goat farmer and helping out on a goat farm. So that's kind of the end of my story where I've ended up working on farms and helping out other farmers. But I guess I can kind of start from the beginning, not with my birth, but how my a little bit of my journey of how I ended up being here in this moment, who I am now. So I guess my educational background would be I actually went to college for exercise science and athletic training. So coming out of that, I actually worked in the athletic training field with combined experience probably 3.5 to 4 years, something like that. So I was doing physical therapy, injury rehab. Um, I was doing I was working with Delta Airlines, doing physical therapy with them, working with their employees, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun for me, but I noticed something, and we can dive into this more later. But just quickly, I'll say is I noticed there was a recurring theme with my most injured patients, the people that kept coming back to me, and that was their diet and it was also how much support they had from their family or other people.
Mm.
So I realized there was a missing link in what I was doing. I was able to help people, but if I couldn't get them to like eat better, or if they didn't have support, they would keep getting hurt and they would keep having to come back. And yeah, so I was like, hey, maybe there's more I can do. Maybe I can like before they start getting hurt, I can help them beforehand. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna become a health coach.
Wow.
And yeah, and the crazy thing was like, hey, I'm gonna move to Brazil and be a health coach, which that's a long story, but I did end up living in Brazil for a year, so that was fun.
Um,
But anyways, I got my health coach certification. Um, I was working on that while also working on my master's online and also working at the airport. So there was a lot going on, like, but it was fun. So eventually I quit the job at the airport. I started traveling with my girlfriend, my past girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend. And I was just working on my coaching journey and really working on myself. Ended up coaching one guy. He did really well. It was a lot of fun, a lot of experience for me. But during my travels, I found there's this other realization I came to. It's like my health coaching, yeah, I was helping them. I was helping the person like get to the root cause of like fixing their diet, better habits, all these things. But then the more I studied and the more I listened to people, I was like, there's an even deeper root to why so many people are sick and so many people are suffering.
mm.
So I realized it was our food system. And I was like, if we can't fix our food system, if we can't like grow food from healthy soil, it doesn't matter what healthy food you eat. If it's not grown in good soil and it's processed and chemicals are added to it, like it's like fighting an uphill battle to try to be well. So then I was like, okay, well, let's go to farming. So if you can see, I'm slowly getting to the root of why we're all so sick. Like it's truly the biggest pandemic is our health. So, anyways, yeah. So that's I actually ended up splitting up with my girlfriend because one thing I wanted to really be in the farming world. So I wanted to go. So I ended up going to California actually and working on it was a fruit orchard, a pot farm, and they also had goats and chickens. So that was my first experience with farming. I fell in love with it. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about organic and regenerative farming, and I just kept studying it and studying it. And yeah, then I came back to Georgia, worked on a beef farm, and I guess I'll kind of end here and we can dive into anything you like. But now I'm actually in Texas. Ended up in Austin, Texas, right outside of it, working on it's like a regenerative dairy goat farm. We have cows, pigs, goats, all kinds of things. And yeah, so that's kind of the broad picture
Yeah,
for you. And that's where I'm at.
yeah. Thank you for that, Brandon. I can see like how it like from now how you from where you started, how has this evolved? And you went from the outside, like the physical training, like super superficial level. Then you went a little bit deeper into the root or the individual, but then you expanded really deep into the whole collective and how literally the food system is one of the big causes of our being uh, in a disease or in a pandemic sort of way of health. So
Yeah.
I truly respect that you went really deep into the root and you followed that calling. And that's taking you from one country to another and then from to another. It's been
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
Um, some things that really popped out to me, and yeah, I would like to go deeper. First, let's go a little more into the health and coaching thing because
Okay.
that's the individual level, and then we could go more into the deep food system as what it means like to certain types of farming. So for the
Mm.
health coach, what would be like 3 or 4 main habits that someone could start implementing to fix themselves? You said diet, okay.
Yeah.
What else is important? You also mentioned that many of the people went back to you because they were in need or in lack of support of their family and friends. So could you
Yeah.
expand more about that?
Yeah, cool, man. I love that. So yeah, I guess I can give like I guess three broad things. Because you know, with every person, you really gotta dive in with them to see what they exactly need. But um, I guess the first thing here, like actionable advice for anyone listening that wants to improve their health is, and this is gonna sound really basic, but just go outside more. Like seriously, I believe the statistic is that we spend 80 to 90% of our lives indoors. And I truly believe that's a detriment to our health
Mm,
because lack of sun, lack of connecting with the earth, and just breathing in fresh air, all of that energizes us, all of it. So, one simple thing you can do with that is in the morning time, sometime from sunrise to around 10 to 11 a.m., whatever your schedule is like, however you can do it, go outside and just be in the sun. Um, just for 5 minutes, even if you all you have is 5 minutes, just be outside. If you can take your shoes off, put your feet on the bare earth, and just be there, I'm telling you, it's going to be a game changer.
mm,
Mood, sleep, it's going to help all of that. Second thing would be sleep.
mm,
That's where I'm going to head with that, is and how you can improve your sleep. So a big thing is, this is probably the simplest thing you can do, is an hour before bed, no electronics. So we're in the electronics age. We're in the digital age. We all have our phone. We're on our phones right now. But what that does at night, when you have all this like stimulation, you don't produce melatonin. And we all know melatonin is what helps us fall asleep and dream and go into that deep, relaxing sleep. Well, if you cut that all these electronics out an hour before, and try to reduce your light, you're going to sleep a lot better. And you'll notice within a couple of days, you'll start like falling asleep faster. You'll feel more refreshed when you wake up. And the third thing, a really simple thing, is best you can just eat whole foods. So simply put, try to cut out processed foods. Do your best to replace them with literally whole foods, and that literally means like an apple, like or literally like beef or eggs or carrots, whatever. They're whole foods. They're not like processed into a box and they actually spoil. So that's a good way to look at it. If your food doesn't spoil, it's not whole food. It's got some kind of preservative, something like that. So those are the three basic things, and three actionable steps you could take. And I think there was another question you had for me, but I'm forgetting now.
Yeah, why support plays a big role when health of people, when it comes to the health of people?
Yeah. So we can take this back to how humans evolved and how we got to where we are today. We're social creatures, right? There's a part of us, even if we don't recognize it, that when we're alone, there's this anxiety, there's this fear that we're gonna die, right? And just a really quick example of how I see this in farming. So I'm taking care of goats. If anyone's ever seen goats or cows, they herd together, right? So when I take a baby goat away from its friends, like I have to do something, it gets stressed out. Like if it's by itself, it physically shows that it's stressed out. Now humans, we may not show it like immediately, but on the inside there's like this anxiousness and stress that, hey, we're alone. Even though we won't really actually die in today's society, there's still that fear in our subconscious, like underlying, that we'll die. So that's where I think it stems from, that when you feel like you have no support, you're alone in something, it's almost like you're so stressed out, your body can't heal. So what I found in patients during physical therapy is if I could get them a friend to work out with them or do their routine with them, they would stick with it, right? They would actually do it. Or if they could get their family to support them and like get the person to talk to their family about it, like, hey guys, I need your support, or find a friend, you move along better in life. So that I want to lead into this with me and you, like how we met. Okay, so personally on my journey, I was feeling very alone, very, very alone in my health journey and coming to the wellness I've created today. I felt very alone. So something I ended up finding and how we met was through the Rising Man, which is it's a men's community. It's where men come together to support each other in our journeys, like our journeys as men. So yeah, me and Astro here, we met on a men's team, and we can talk about this more later if you like, but that was something that propelled my growth, because I had people supporting me, and they weren't like, no, the men on the team weren't shaming me for like being where I was at. They were like, hey man, I see where you're at, let's help you get further, and that is what sped up my growth, man, like tremendously. It's like I knew I needed support, but I just couldn't find it until I found you men and all the other men in the Rising Men. So yeah, man, I guess that's a basic of how support really can
Yeah,
help you.
that was truly powerful. Thank you for that. please take notes because this is really, really important information that's gonna save your life, literally.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
Heck yeah.
so yeah, we can go towards the end into some other aspects like Rising Man or Druidry because I know there's some
Hey, yeah.
stuff there. But yeah, I want to go deep into the roots. So we passed the physical training, we passed the coaching, and now to the food. I have a question. So yeah, what's the difference between what we so call now organic and regenerative? Because
Okay.
can be organic, but things can be organic and regenerative. What's that big difference?
Cool. So I'll give you a basic of organic. Organic depends, first off, who is certifying that company and that food organic depends on the rules. So basically, you can think of organic is they're not using chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides. It's all like organic materials. Like, for example, you wouldn't think, but like bone meal, regular compost, so compost made from animal manure, their poop and pee and all that. So they're using organic materials. They're not creating chemicals to use in to grow the plants. Okay, so that's the basics of organic. You're not going to be eating like Roundup or glyphosate, like the big pesticide everyone may know by now. But the difference with organic and regenerative, if you really want to dive into it, is the soil health. Okay, so the main difference here, organic, they're not measuring the health of the soil. The health of the soil isn't as important. The only thing organic means is there's no chemicals in the process. Regenerative means that they are implementing steps to regenerate the soil. So that means making the soil healthy. So this is where it's a huge difference because from my knowledge and my beliefs, if the soil is not healthy, the plant is not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're not getting as many nutrients into the plant because the plant, it needs a good, healthy foundation in the soil because that's where it's exchanging nutrients and feeding itself to be able to capture sunlight and grow. Okay, so that's the biggest difference. And it was really cool. There was a study done about organic agriculture, and they found that the soil health of some organic farms, I'm not saying all of them, that the soil health was actually worse than traditional like industrial farming.
Wow.
Yeah, because in organic farming, there's still like they can still just be monocrops, which is just one crop all over hundreds of acres or however big. And because there's not that diversity, they're just stripping the soil of nutrients and they're not giving it back. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not all farms, but that's just an example of why I believe regenerative farming is the way to go. Because if we don't have healthy food, like nutritious food, if we don't have healthy soils, like we as a society will fail. Like because our health will fail, then society will kind of crumble, and that's my beliefs, man. So, but not to get too much into that, that's the main differences between regenerative and organic.
So basically, there can't be like two organic tomatoes, and if one is in a soil that's like bad quality or it's not measured, it might even be smaller. It might have less taste, less nutrients. Whereas in the regenerative, it's really big. It's really like healthy and it's packed with nutrients. My question.
Yeah, and
Mhm. Yes.
yeah, and I always want to tell people not to focus on the size of the fruit. It's not the size that matters because you can have like huge vegetables and fruit from industrial agriculture because of all the chemicals they're adding. But if you've ever tasted, it's a really cool thing. If you ever taste a strawberry from industrial farm that's like huge, it just tastes like water. You taste one from a regenerative soil or really like soil that's been taken care of, it may be really small, but it's the most flavorful thing. Like my mouth's watering right now.
Mm.
It's the most flavorful thing you'll ever taste. So if you can ever get the chance to just try, and this is for anyone listening, just try, do your best, try to find like a farmer who is using regenerative practices and just taste the difference. Go buy a Kroger strawberry or store-bought strawberry or any kind of vegetable to that end. But yeah, I just want to throw that in there before the next question.
Yeah, maybe just to close this up, um, people might not have the opportunity to have a farm themselves. They might have
Yeah.
like 4x4 plot of land, or just like even like just pots around the house. What could they do to implement a little bit of this regenerative farming into their lives?
Well, to implement it into your life, the first thing is I would always encourage people to do, even if you don't have regenerative farmers around you, go meet your farmers. And I'll get to how you can physically do it, but I think it's so important to just meet the farmers in your area because it's like we're so removed from how our food is made that when you go meet the farmer, you see how much work he's putting in and how hard it is, and just the effort they're putting in to feed you and feed themselves. Like it kind of clicks for you, like, oh, this is important. I see what you mean. So that's the first thing. Just find your local farmers, see how you can support them, and do that. If you have no land, if you have just an apartment, there's stuff you can grow in your windowsill. And I'm not saying that's specifically regenerative farming, but that is getting you more connected with nature, getting you connected with the soil. So what you can do is, even if you have to buy the soil, that's fine. Do the best with where you're at. Don't think that because I'm telling you regenerative farming is really the healthiest, and like start with where you're at. Okay, so if you have a windowsill with light, start growing some herbs. So grow your own basil or grow your own chives. It's honestly, you can do a Google search and it's really easy to start growing some herbs in your windowsill. Get little pots. If you have some neighbors or someone who else is already growing, ask for advice. Like, how did you get your stuff growing? If you meet your farmer, ask them if you can get some compost from them. So instead of having to buy soil out of a bag, ask your local farmer, hey, like I only need these little pots. Like, can I grab some compost from you or something?
Mm.
Yeah. And then that's the next thing. You can compost within a little apartment. Um, you can look up how to do like bucket composting, create your own compost. And that's the other thing, guys, with YouTube, with Google, you can find all these things. Seriously, that's what I was doing when I was living in Brazil and I was trying to make my own composter. I just Googled it. And there were all these other Brazilians that had these videos of like how to create it out of 5-gallon buckets and keep it in your house.
Wow.
And also learned how to grow mushrooms in my house out of a trash bag. So like it's just once you start, I promise you'll get this creative like urge to like, oh, I want to do this more.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's because it's the health that brings you and it inspires you. It brings some light back to you, some energy, and you're like, hey, I want to do more of this. And then you can reach out to someone like me and like, hey, yeah, I'll help you out. Like, I'll give you some advice, you know? I love talking to people about this. But yeah, that's the quickest thing you can do, man, is
Yeah.
like if you got a windowsill, use it, you know?
So basically, start doing it, and then
Yeah.
and the first part is, yeah, go meet the farmers, because until you see how your food is made, you'll still just go into Uber Eats and think it's easy as that, whereas not as that. And I can see a reference that why it's so easy that we actually get, because we don't put the effort to get the food, sometimes is not as rewarding as
Yeah.
for a farmer who took the entire day to eat a meal, to work,
Mm-hmm.
or the entire month to eat a meal. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
really cool. One of the most transformative experiences I had is, yeah, when I had my garden and I planted
Mm-hmm.
things and I then harvested, and even though I ate like a little basil or a little mint, it was so amazing because
Yeah.
I saw it grow. I know how much time it took. So yeah, really, really powerful. Thank you, Brandon, for that. And yeah, we've gone to the roots. We've gone deep. Maybe some final aspects. Do you want to talk maybe about more about rising community or about druidry? What calls you right now?
Let's do some druidry, man. I've never spoke about it live. I don't speak to it about it with many people, mainly because it's not a popular thing. And honestly, a lot of people when they hear druidry, they think, at least from my upbringing where I come from, is it's a bad thing. Like it's because it's a pagan religion. It sounds evil, right? It sounds bad. But what I want to talk about is modern druidry and what it actually is. So the word druidry means wild wisdom. When you break it down to its roots, it means wild wisdom. Um, and I love that because I believe the wild nature is truly where you get wisdom. It's truly where you're going to learn so many life lessons. And it may sound crazy to someone who is just like never dove into it, you know, because it kind of sounded crazy to me at first. I was like, what do you mean nature is wisdom? Like, what do you mean it teaches you? And until you really like immerse yourself into it and just slowly start like just being in it, like going outside and just sitting there, it doesn't hit you. But over time, you're like, oh, I get it. Like it really is teaching me lessons. And I think a big lesson for me from nature was patience. It's like nature takes its own time. It has its own time. And if we can just follow that, like our lives become, I wouldn't say easier, but simpler. Because is always going to throw you curveballs. There are always going to be hard moments, but it becomes simpler when you move at the pace of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, anyways, I hope that sparked some interest in some people. But how I got into druidry is I was really looking for a way to connect with nature because I got into farming, I got into this regenerative thing, and I was like, okay, well, I really want a spiritual, like I had gone away from all my spiritual practices, and I really felt this calling to reconnect spiritually with nature. Um, because I used to say nature is my church because that's where I feel God. Um, and that's probably what brought me to it was it truly is my church.
Mm.
It's where I connect with God, it's where I feel him the most. And I see him in nature. Like I see his wisdom. I see how smart he is. Like this oak tree I can see out my window right now, like how amazing it is that from a little seed there is this gigantic oak tree out there. Like God gave it the wisdom to grow and to capture as much sunlight as possible and be this healthy, huge tree that now gives my house shade, gives me shade, gives all these animals life because of its acorns. Like the squirrels can live. The plants that live under it can only live in shade. So it's amazing, man. It's amazing how God works and just all these things work together in nature. So what drew me to Druidry was my friend Damien. Um, he was like, dude, I really think you would like this. I really think you'd be into this. So I checked him out. And I was like, yeah, dude, this makes so much sense. Like wild wisdom. I just keep saying that over and over again, but it makes sense to me. And the fact that that's where I've had some of my biggest like epiphanies and biggest like, and also the fact that I feel so much better when I'm just like the other day I spent half the day just walking around the woods out here, and you just feel so calm. I come up with so many creative ideas, and my body just feels so much better. So I guess that's it. I don't know if you have any questions from all that. I know I kind of went on a riff there, but yeah, man.
Yeah, maybe yeah, it's going back to the first part. You said one of the best things to do is to go outside, more specifically to nature. Uh,
Yeah,
Not even going with the cell phone, not even going with other things, but just being there, immersing yourself in life. Um, I really enjoyed this conversation. I wanna just have like these teasers for all the topics, for people to then go visit you and ask you more questions. We covered a
yeah,
lot
man.
live, um, and it passed by like this, if you if you notice it.
Yeah, man. It's
Um,
quick.
but it went amazing. Maybe one final thing you'd like to share, Brandon. I'm gonna also tag you in the live, and this will also be on YouTube afterwards. Um,
Cool.
so I'll tag you so people can follow and reach more about you. But any final things you would like to share to people, like one final thing, or thought or action?
Yeah, man. It still goes back to, yeah, the first advice I gave people: go outside, take your shoes off. Seriously, it doesn't matter if you're in the city. Go find a park. Go find a patch of grass on the side of the road. I don't care. I'm telling you, get your shoes off and just put them in the grass. Put them in the soil. It's going to make a difference in your life. I promise. And really, it's just about committing to doing it. Like, even if it's 2 minutes, it doesn't matter. You got to start somewhere. So that's my final calling for people. Yeah, go outside, take your shoes off.
First Send Talk. It went amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, can't wait to hear more from your from your farm stories in the future as well. Okay.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate your time. Thanks, brother.